What's up, y'all, and welcome back to Your Hair Made Simple, the podcast where we encourage you to embrace your natural hair with clarity, confidence, and courage. We're back for another episode, and I am so excited today because I have with me Ciara Imani May, who is the CEO and founder of Rebundle, which is the first U.S.-made plant-based hair extension brand on a mission to transform the hair care industry. And so I'm so excited to have her with us to just share her hair story, to share her knowledge, and for us to just learn more about the braiding hair care industry and how we can better care for our own hair. So Ciara, I will turn it over to you to say hello and start off with our first question of what is your hair story?
Thank you for having me. Happy to talk about my hair and my journey with my hair. My relationship with my hair has changed since becoming an adult because I feel less of an attachment to it. So growing up, I always had long hair, wore it in braids, some with extensions, some without. I did have a relaxer and then went natural when I was in high school, was growing it out, and through college, wore all the styles with your natural hair, trying all the products. But once I finished school, that wasn't as important to me, so I cut it off. I did a pixie, I did a bob, I did fade. And so I've sort of experimented, which has taught me to feel less attached to my hair because it will grow back.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important, right? Once you get your own agency to figure out what your hair means to you and you have the room to kind of explore and play around with it, really coming to your own terms of what it means to you and like being at peace with being able to try different things, try different styles, and see different versions of yourself in that way too. I think that's really powerful for people who, might still be kind of struggling with like where their hair fits into their space or how to care for it. So
yeah, I definitely feel like growing up, there was certain styles that were more or less expected of us depending on the age we were, where we were in school. But in adulthood, it matters a lot less.
Yeah, I very vividly remember I was in middle school because I used to wear my hair in braids all the time. Like every 2 weeks I was getting my hair braided. And then somewhere in middle school, it was like, well, now you were supposed to be a little bit more mature. It's time to straighten your hair. And I never really wanted to. And then peer pressure, I straightened my hair. And then somebody not cut off a lot of my ponytail, but they like snipped a part of my ponytail. And so I remember that very vividly because I was like, not me trying to step out and be mature. And y'all are like the ones that were peer pressuring me. But yeah. And after that, I was like, well, like, what does hair mean in terms of, like age or in terms of where I should be in life? So I remember kind of processing some of that myself because I also wasn't the one doing my hair. So it was really like what society's telling me and what my mom is going to let me get done to my hair in a chair versus being able to have my own choice and agency.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. So you were able to experiment with your hair, kind of really form your own relationship with it and be content with it. And then fast forward, now you have Rebundle, right? And so in between that journey, how did your own hair journey inform you deciding to launch out and start Rebundle?
So it was in that time that I had cut it off and was wearing a fade and decided to grow back out that the idea for Rebundle came to be because I was in that TWA phase and I didn't really want to rock that look again.
Yeah.
So I was getting braids quite frequently. And that's when the world sort of collided between scalp irritation and then the environmental impact that those repeat styles can have on the planet. And with those two school of thoughts together, I sort of made this conclusion that if I was going to continue to wear braids, that I would need to be able to do so both comfortably and sustainably. And there wasn't a product readily available on the market that met my needs, at that time, which inspired me to figure out how to do so myself.
Yeah. I don't wear braids often, which is why I'm excited about your product and was really excited to talk to you specifically for the reasons that you talked about. And so for me, like my scalp gets very irritated. Like I could never keep synthetic braiding hair in, or I would have to do the ACV rinse where you get the braiding hair and you're dunking it in your tub and you're rinsing it for your life and then hoping it doesn't mat in the process. And I think that's a lot of work for people who want to wear braids, but also want to maintain the integrity of their scalp. And that still doesn't even solve the environmental piece. That's just making sure, right, that it doesn't irritate my head and I don't break out into hives when I put these braids on. And so for you, I'm curious, just the symptoms that you were seeing with your braiding hair. Was it the scalp irritation piece too? Was it, I have all this hair, what do I do with it now? Like, where is it going? Landfill? Like, just the questions that started to stir up for you in that
definitely
process.
It definitely started with the irritation itself. I just remember vividly being uncomfortable and scratching a lot and like making sure that I had my tools. So a rat tail comb so I could reach the hard to reach spots. Yeah. Just like vividly recall being like, why is this so uncomfortable? And I don't want to like, I don't want to wear my hair in any other way right now. So this is bothering me. So that's where it really started. And then once I just clicked in a little bit to try to see what other people were saying about the scalp irritation is when I had the realization that every time I take the braids out, I'm putting that hair in the trash. And this when I started to think about the environmental impact on top of that. So I feel like for the brand, we always start with the human experience first, which is the scalp irritation, sometimes burning sensation for people. They're breaking out. They're having severe allergic reactions. Like that's something that people can immediately recall. And then the environmental piece is an afterthought, which is also part of, the problem is we don't have the opportunity. We haven't had the opportunity to think about the environmental impact at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, I'm just trying to figure out why my head's on fire. Like I can't even think about what is happening afterwards or where this is going. It's really, I'm trying to either sustain my hair, like sustain it in a style that is manageable for me, or I'm trying to like problem solve on why it's irritating. But then the environmental factor being that kind of next level step to be considered, right? Which a lot of the quality of products that we use has impact not only on ourselves and the environment. So it really all is connected, even if we don't have the opportunity to think about it as such, right?
Yep.
So I'm curious because I know like with Rebundle, it's made from repurposed biopolymers and banana fibers, right? And so as you were going through this process and like working towards Rebundle and creating your product too, what are some of the things that you learned about braiding industry and probably the braiding hair that a lot of people are familiar with using that either surprised you or, just more informed why people are even experiencing those irritation sensations?
I'm non-technical, so I was approaching this from a perspective of what business opportunity is here, and to understand what could be, I needed to understand what currently was available on the market. And so I ordered a lab test. I was living in Charlotte at the time. It was through, I think, a school somewhere in North Carolina. Ordered a lab analysis on 2 samples of braiding hair that I had used before to see if it would tell me anything. And I couldn't interpret the results myself, so I had to ask some people who could understand basically chemical composition of products and cosmetic chemistry to tell me like, what is this here for?
Right.
And the results themselves was sort of startling, just some of the names of ingredients that were present that I could identify, like animal meat fat. So I was like, why is that there? Like, what benefit would that have to product, and what impact could that be having on my scalp? And so I was surprised to see how many ingredients were present in the samples, different components that were, again, used for different reasons that I couldn't necessarily identify, but handed out to other people who said like, oh, this usually for this purpose, or they add these in these products, to make it congeal, or, something like that. And so I was pretty turned off by the results and thought that other people would be taken aback too. It didn't necessarily answer the question of what exactly is causing the irritation, but it did sort of make it clear that this group of components that we're putting on our scalps likely shouldn't be touching our skin at all.
Yeah. And I think too, because, right, like I'm also not a sciencey person in that way. Like my backgrounds are business and education and comms. So I think for you, just taking that perspective of saying like, let's just see, and also not even going by what they say, like, let's just take it to a lab or somewhere and then talking to some experts about it and getting that feedback. And it sounds like even though like there's not specifically an identifier of like this specific thing is causing the irritation, it sounds like it's like this maybe is not necessarily best formulated to care for a scalp or to, facilitate scalp health, especially with the synthetic brands. And so that being a takeaway that you can come in saying like, what was one of the ingredients you saw? And you were like, what is that? Why
animal meat fat?
Animal meat fat?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Animal. I was like, let me make sure I heard it right.
Didn't say what animal, doesn't say why it's there. It's just like, okay, well, that seems odd. What would it be used for in other applications? So to your point, it was just became immediately clear, especially when I talked to people who had a background in material science and plastics. People who had no relationship with synthetic hair, when I would share this with them, they're like, this goes where? Like, you're wearing this like on your body? And they're like, I would never do anything like that. Like these chemicals are used in industrial applications. Like, how did that even come to be? And so that pretty much told me everything I needed to know about how the hair care industry, how the hair extensions industry itself has been able to get by with very little oversight, very little regulation to ask questions about this product that so many Black women use.
That so many Black women use from such a young age to like, so kids put it on their hair, you know, like they're still growing, they're still developing. I'm still stuck on animal meat fat. I'm not even gonna, my brain is literally like, why? But I think to your point, that's the exact kind of shocking thing and reason that we need better products that are available on the market too. Wow. Man. So as you were disrupting this market, right, where there's clearly wasn't, like you said, not as much oversight in terms of the quality of product or even the ingredients that were being used in our braiding hair, what challenges did you necessarily face with saying like, okay, there's clearly a need, this product that is available is clearly, you know, not best formulated for scalp health or the environment. And then fast forward to now you have the product, right? And so in terms of developing that and developing something for us, what were the challenges or kind of things that you had to overcome in doing that?
I mean, yeah, there's a number of challenges, right. Some that are still relevant, some that are not. But I think is important to point out now is how we develop our pricing strategy and how pricing directly informs who this product is accessible to. And so synthetic hair you can buy for as little as like 99 cents, but on average, in different parts of the country, it's going to run you like $6 to $8 a pack. And so when the consumer is used to that price point and they're used to a certain quality, and I'd say quality sort of loosely because the quality is what we're accustomed to, but that doesn't necessarily make it good quality. It's just the quality that we're accustomed to. So those factors play a role in the consumer's mind to decide how much is something better worth and how much more are they willing to pay for it. So we launched the product at a premium price point more akin to human hair because we were trying to get the consumer to think about the hair braiding experience as elevated because it is. Think about how much money you spend on the installation. And if you are allergic and you have to take it out, like that's a sunk cost. We were trying to do the mental math for people, but the sticker shock was more of a problem than we had hoped for because we knew that we had to price it in a way that it made sense for the business, but we were hoping that all the reasons and all the education that we provided that enough people would agree with us. And a healthy base did agree with us, but for the most part, we got a lot of questions and pushback about like, why is it so high? And so that forced us to reevaluate how to position ourselves in the market, but what is our path to make this product more accessible, considering how widely it is used in the Black community and not even just in America, but really across the world. So it's still an ongoing process, but we have been very transparent about our pricing and recently rolled out a new tiered pricing just about a month ago, bringing the price down in hopes that it gives people the opportunity to choose Rebundle instead of synthetic hair.
Yeah. And I love that. I think that's great that that's a goal that's being worked towards too, because I think about like my friends and I know they use braids all the time in their regular life. And it is something that's an accessible style to them when maybe other things are not as much so, right? Or like they go get the braiding hair, they'll braid it themselves even. And so like just making sure that there's opportunity for anybody who wants to be able to use something that's going to be better for their scalp to be able to like have access to that, I think is really important because braids are such an integral part of the Black community and our culture. So it's exciting to like see something like this be growing and expanding. So I'm excited to be watching along for the journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as you like have rolled this product out, right, and you're like working with customers and the people who were your healthy, you know, kind of like first base, what was some of the feedback that you were hearing in terms of just like interactions with their scalps and scalp care and how it's kind of like made a difference in terms of the quality of product and having something that's not synthetic that they were used to before?
I would say across the board, people are not experiencing scalp irritation, which is a problem we were addressing to begin with. And there's a very clear difference between how our products feel on people's scalps versus how synthetic hair feels on people's scalps if they have a history of scalp irritation or an allergic reaction, etc. A very clear difference. So that's always very rewarding that we're at least solving the root of the issue. I would say as the business grows and things get more complex, we're having to manage not just the product performance, but overall quality, supply chain, quality assurance, distribution, and all the aspects that provide for a positive experience for a consumer. And so there are pieces of that we're still working to refine. For example, making sure that we always have the right assortment of products in stock when people want them based on demand, making sure that the unboxing experience is pleasant and that there's good educational materials in the packaging to make sure that people feel confident when they open it. Making sure that there are enough professionals in the hair braiding industry who are familiar with the brand that are willing to try our products. So all those pieces contribute to customer satisfaction. And there are some areas that we have done better at and other areas where we're still trying to improve, but we rely on the customers who get it and want to be a part of it to give us feedback so that we can make improvements.
Yeah. And I think, when you're building with the customer in mind, right, is one of the best ways to make sure that you're connecting to the end user and just providing that wraparound care and experience. As you were talking just about the operations and all the things, right? Because I think people see a product and they don't think about everything that goes into the background of it. It's either I like this product or I don't, but it's such helpful context. And as you're working and building that up, I'm curious for you, entering this market and entering this industry and everything you learned about the braiding hair care, what percentage or what amount of other braiding hair care brands are Black owned that we're using? Or if you don't know that, I'm curious because I'm hearing your experience and I can just tell that you think a lot about the women and the Black people that are on the other side of this, and thinking about to your earlier question of how did we even land in a place where have this synthetic, almost plastics, being put in our head anyways. And this is something I'll probably take back and research. I was doing a little bit of reading on it, and the percentage that I found was small. It was maybe a 3 to 5%, not a large percentage at all. But I think about, when founders are creating for brand, communities that they're familiar with, then there's oftentimes more care put into a product than just making something solely because it's a business opportunity where you don't see it, right? That's how we end up with synthetic hair care,
Yeah. I mean, the answer, in my opinion, your question is what percentage of the market, of the synthetic hair market is owned by Black people? My opinion is zero.
Yeah.
Because the brands that are selling a product that is not differentiated, they are buying from the suppliers of the actual manufacturers and conglomerates who have the say so in what the product is made out of and how it's distributed. So, in my humble opinion, zero.
Yeah.
But I think the good thing that is happening, and I'm glad that we are a part of, is there is a new cohort of hair extensions brands, not necessarily synthetic. So I'll put them in a different category, but hair extensions brands that are actually using innovative technologies to break the market up a bit so that we have options. And all of those that I have seen so far, there are maybe 6 in the game now. There weren't really any when we started in 2021, but they're all Black owned. And I think that is extremely powerful and important and will change the dynamic of how this industry operates for the better long term.
Yep. And that's exactly the question I was getting at, right? It sounds like we have some pioneers on the forefront doing some amazing work. And so I'm excited to kind of see yourself and those other brands rise up as well. I wanted to ask as well, just when you were formulating the brand too, because you have the biopolymers, the banana fibers, and it's good for the environment. So the process of really finding the ingredient makeup, right, that really works best for our hair, right? What did that look like to sit down and really land at this specific formulation?
It's an ongoing process. My director of product is really phenomenal. She has a background in cosmetic chemistry, and she and I are able to collaborate on the business model for the product and the supply chain, but also the formulation and what inputs need to be present in how we select ingredients to go into the product, but they have to meet a criteria that she and I agree is important for the business and for our customers. So I landed on banana fiber because in my research, I saw that there were some women in rural parts of Africa who were using banana fiber because it's native to their homelands. And so that just got me curious about what is this plant and where can I get it? Where else in the world is it grown? And so from there, we were able to use that base raw ingredient to the primary ingredient for the product. And then we built on top of that. So all the inputs that we have in the product were proprietary to us. And that was important for me because while I admired the work that these women were doing, it didn't necessarily solve the problem that I was addressing because I still couldn't access it. I still couldn't go online and buy this and be a regular customer. So I would say for us, it's about making sure that the integrity of the product is high and that we do a good job of vetting everything and making sure that if at some point, which we hope for, there's regulation in the industry, that we're 10 steps ahead and we don't have to make any real changes.
Yeah. One, I love that it's something that, right, is native to African women who were already kind of doing that and being able to pull from the diaspora and find a way to then integrate that into a product that is more accessible, right? Something that people can more easily access and utilize for themselves. And so thank you for sharing just that perspective on how do you formulate our hair for our braids. With Rebundle, are there any things, I know that you've been on this campaign recently, you've been working on the pricing points, but in terms of the product themselves, are there any things that you are excited for on the horizon with Rebundle, color-wise or just design-wise, or anything that you're looking forward to working more on with the brand?
I think the pricing strategy is most important to everybody on our team right now because it is allowing us to reach a broader audience. And so we're just going to hang out there and focus on that and make sure that people who've come across Rebundle before but felt like it wasn't for them because it was too expensive see where we are now.
You were saying how the pricing is the thing that y'all are most focused on right now and y'all are just going to land there for a while.
Yep. We're just going to focus on making sure people are aware of us in general. If they're learning about us for the first time, engaging with them and making sure that they feel like this product is for them. Or people who have purchased in the past but didn't buy again because the price point, wherever the customer is in their journey, we're just going to reinforce the messaging around accessibility and trying the product.
Awesome. And then you said when y'all ship out the hair too, there's an education component in that. What is that education piece? Is it education on the product itself? Is it education on scalp care? How are you using education as a tool to also better equip the customers and the users?
Question. We're primarily focused on the education of the product itself and making sure that people know how to use it successfully and also working with professionals, hopefully near them, that know how to use the product as well. It's not like it's a huge learning curve and it's drastically different. The texture is different. And so that can be a deterrent for many when they open it and they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like synthetic hair, but synthetic hair has never been our benchmark. So making sure that there's enough content that we're putting out about how to use the product, best practices for installation and maintenance, all those details that, again, provide for a positive experience.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. It's not different, right? But when you're trying something new, it's just how do you make people feel comfortable with embracing a new space and embracing a new product and embracing a new step as well?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Rebundle is also good for the environment, which I personally love. And so talking about that, you can reuse it, right? You can wash, reuse it. What are those factors that make it, better for the environment?
You can reuse it. This obviously depends on the style and the person. If they want to take it down from the ends, there's no magic trick to take the braids out any faster, at least not yet. And we provide enough information on our website on if you wanted to maintain it, here's how. That's an area that we're going to invest in a little bit more too as we better understand how important that is to the consumer. It's important to some, but it's not important to all. But for those who do want to invest in the product like they would human hair, making sure people have the products and the steps that they need to care for it.
Awesome. And then, so the hair, if somebody were to dispose of it, it's biodegradable. Is that correct?
Yep. It is biodegradable. We don't have a closed loop cycle for braidbetter yet, because it is compostable, depending on where you live, and you should easily be able to find somewhere near you that takes yard waste, because that's what it is.
Yes. I am in that camp of people who cares. And I definitely have a bag of like braiding hair from I don't even know how long ago, just in the closet, because I'm like, I feel bad throwing this away because I know like in my mind, I'm like, it's going to go to a landfill and like, who knows? Like, I don't want this to end up in some bird's mouth, right? Or like random braiding hair that you see on the sidewalk when you're walking down the street. I see that in my neighborhood sometimes too. So I love knowing that there's a product out there that will decompose and is biodegradable for the camp that does. I'm in that camp that cares about that. But two, there are also people who just like having a product that they can reuse and care for. So knowing that you can kind of marry both of those things and don't have to sacrifice on quality is important as well. Yeah,
exactly right.
Well, as we get ready to kind of wind down our episode, for those who are listening and just really wanting to better care for their scalps and enjoy, getting braids, the braiding experience, which a lot of our listeners do, what advice or tips would you share for them to just how better care for their hair and maintain their hair, like with styling with braids?
I am of the mindset that braid care is hair care. And while it has been treated as an aside or a separate conversation, we actually see it as one conversation, because how you take care of your hair while in a protective style is what makes it a protective style. So this includes the actual maintenance, but most relevant to us is the products that you're using, the actual hair extensions, and then the styling products that you're using to put the braids in, to maintain them, etc. That is not how we've always viewed braiding hair in the beauty industry. It's not even sold where you buy all your other beauty products, which I think is also like interesting and something that we're trying to change a bit. So my advice is for everyone to treat their braids just like they would their everyday hair care and be very intentional about the products that they choose to use.
Yeah. Honing in on what you said, how braid maintenance has been treated separate as hair care for so long too, because the conversation of protective styles, a lot of people are like, well, my hair is in braids, it's protected, right? But are you making sure that it's hydrated and moisturized? Like, what are you doing to make sure that it's maintained well is something important, and it's going to impact your hair when those braids come out, right? Like, you don't just put your hair, it's not a set and forget style, which I think oftentimes people have been in that mindset of. So just pulling that back out to remembrance is really helpful advice for folks who are listening. And then my last question for you, if you could say one affirmation to your hair right now, what would it be?
Oh, honestly, I do not think about my hair a lot. Funny enough, I'm thinking about other people's hair and I'm thinking about the product, but I just let my hair be. I'm taking care of it. I'm making sure that I'm choosing quality products, but my hair doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have a name. It's just hair. It's just hair to me that I make sure is taken care of like the rest of my body is.
Honestly, for me, I've gotten a lot of good answers, but I think that one kind of hits me in a different way, because one of my guests in an episode we just released, we talk about how like we think about our bodies in such separate ways, and our hair is like a separate part of that. But for you, your answer just kind of really highlights that it's just one, like you're one and your hair is a part of that, not something seen separate. And I think that's a great answer too. It's just like, you're part of me, and that's good enough. Like I've integrated you. I treat you well in alignment with how I treat my whole self. And that in and of itself is an answer that not everybody is at. So to be at that place is a really good place to be.
Yeah, I think it's because I centered my hair for so long, especially in college, when like I'm always thinking about, how am I going to style my hair? How am I going to style my natural hair? And technically I'm still natural. I don't have a relaxer, but I wear it straight. I'll get braids. This is just braids with my natural hair with no extensions. And so for me, my hair care is making sure that for whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm at, that my hair is done, but I'm not like overly investing my time, my personal time into my hair. I just don't have it.
Yep. And you found the space that works for you. And that's beautiful.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Ciara, thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. And for those who are listening, if this resonated with you, make sure that you share it with a friend who would also enjoy this conversation. Subscribe to our newsletter. And then until next time, remember that all hair is good hair and your hair is good hair. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye, y'all.